It's been quite a wild ride with the jet stream going so far south. 2 weeks of snow cover in parts of the northern plains, an Oklahoma ice storm. Now we're almost flipping the pattern, looking at a massive warm up throughout the Great Plains. In fact, most of the United States will be warm for the first week of November. Overall, a very dry and quiet pattern. But things like this time of year typically don't last too long. The second week of this general outlook, the weather will be turning much colder and much more active throughout the United States. So for the time being, we're seeing this big ridge taking shape over the western part of North America. Chillier weather is coming down through the high elevations, but it's generally quite mild out west this weekend, and that warmth will be building up into the Great Plains this week with temperatures reaching into the 60s and even a few stray 70s as far north as North Dakota this week. Most of the Great Plains, southeast, southern part of the Corn Belt will be very warm, and in fact some parts of the eastern Corn Belt will be getting quite warm, and it will likely stay this way for most of the week. Now that ridge will begin to collapse toward the end of the week. We'll start looking at a storm moving into some part of the northern Rockies, Pacific Northwest. The warmth will then move next week into the eastern part of the country, and we'll start looking for a southwest to northeast pattern through the central part of the United States. That is one that tends to lead to more active weather. And here comes the cold. As we get into the second week of this period, that cold weather will be dropping down into the northern plains and sticking around. Much of the northern Rockies will be quite cold, and we're going to squelch the heat down south, but likely keep it in full force down in the southern part of the country, down in Florida and parts of the southeastern states. What remains to be seen is the shape of this southwest to northeast flow. There's a potential storm track in there that could eventually lead to some significant moisture for some parts of the Great Plains and upper Midwest. Not this week, though. It is looking dry, except for maybe some showers in the Pacific Northwest along the Gulf Coast. The rest of the United States, anyway, is going to be pretty much bone dry. There may be some areas of rain in the Canadian Maritimes and maybe a few light snows up through northern Canada. But as we switch to the second week, this is the difference that southwest to northeast flow pattern has. We'll start getting some significant rains here and probably a band of significant snow. And where exactly that sets up will have to do with the placement of that track as the time of that storm system coming out of the Rockies. In other words, this snow could drop a little south. It could also pull in some of that rain. So some of the northern plains could either be dry or wet, depending on the location of the pattern. But it does look like the southwest will remain dry. The general outlook, the warmth, the quiet weather, beginning to go to cold and active.